very warm welcome to the Spirit Guides Network Radio. It's lovely to have David Wells on. You are obviously quite well known through your work with Most Haunted and your exposure in the media. I'm quite impressed actually, just looking at your website, the wide gamut of teaching, I guess, that you do, being a Kabbalist, astrologer, author, psychic, past life therapist. I mean, really, you've kind of touched on pretty much all areas of spirituality, haven't you? I mean, what kind of led you onto this journey?
Well, it's one of those things that kind of unfolds, really, and it just kind of started when it really came back to me when I was in my 30s and I had an out-of-body experience when I almost died because of an illness. But I was really fortunate to live in Portsmouth, which isn't something you hear every day, is it really? Would become my teacher. I'd met her 3 years previously, in fact. There was a lesson in there for us all. And 3 years later, after serving many portions of chips and running around many restaurants and working myself into the ground, she was in front of me again. And really, all of those things that you mentioned come from the Qabala. The Qabala is the central root. You know, people often say to me, "Well, you do so much, you do so many things." Well, actually, I don't. I do the Qabala. You know, I actually do one thing, and it encompasses all of those things. And like I said, that journey unfolded over 11 years of training almost every week for 11 years.
Okay, so I mean, where does the Kabbalah come from? Because there's different spellings in the name, isn't there? There's a Kabbalah with a K, with a Q, and they're kind of slightly different, aren't they?
Yeah, for me, the Q, which is the one I study, that sort of tells people that it's the mystic Western tradition, and it really is for non-Jews. The K traditionally is for Jews, and really you have to be over 40, you have to be male, and you have to be Jewish to study the K. Right. That's how it used to be. But of course, the Kabbalah Center, etc., has changed all that. And I think most people know it through Madonna, don't they?
That's right, they do, yeah.
But mine's a different version to Madonna's. Mine is the Q, and for me, the way I see it is mine's perhaps more involved with astrology and with tarot and with past life, whereas the K is a lot more studious. It's a lot more learning the Jewish words, and there's a lot of Judaism in it, if you like. Whereas the Q suits our Western ethics, I think, a bit more, really.
Okay, so with the astrology, is that kind of born out of the Kabbalah of a Q then, the way that you understand archetypes and planets?
Yeah, there's if you recognize the symbol for the Kabbalah, the tree of life, that symbol with the spheres and the paths in between, the spheres themselves, they're called the Sephiroth, or individually Sephara, and they are all the planets. So they begin with Earth at the bottom, move up through the moon, right through to Neptune at the top. So astrology is involved in all of that. And the paths in between, which are those, it gives it those shapes, that's the major arcana of the tarot. So they're all involved and interlinked in each other. And of course, the tarot is a reflection of astrology. It's the same thing. And that's what I try to impress upon people, is that it is the same thing expressed differently. And it's the way in which you take to it. That's the only difference. It's the way you take to it that makes it work for you, you know.
There's basically using your own intuition to read what you're getting within the planets or within the cards.
Yeah, absolutely, and be creative with it. You know, I say that to people all the time. It doesn't matter what you're taught. Well, it does matter, I suppose, what you're taught. But ultimately, once you've learned it, you know, it's like the tarot. Read the book again. Work with the book, work with the cards, and then throw the book away. And then trust your intuition. It's the same with the Q. You know, constantly getting information about it, but then adding your own creative twists to it. So you run it alongside your astrology. When I'm doing my astrology, for example, I can relate it to the Tree of Life. And when I do my tarot, I relate it to the Tree of Life, you know?
Yeah, okay. So I've come across other people that are into the Kabbalah that you're into, and they have an extreme depth of knowledge, way beyond the kind of average person that sort of dips their toe into the psychic awareness or spirituality. So it's kind of goes back a long way, doesn't it? It's a real ancient method, I guess, isn't it?
Yeah, it predates Christ. It predates Christianity. It's one of those things where we actually don't know where it really came from. Legend says that, many legends, but the one that's most common says that it was an archangel that gave it to mankind in a raw form. But I think the thing about it, Ian, is that it's a spoken tradition. It's a tradition that's passed on through generation to generation. And my teacher taught me that way. She spoke about it. She communicated it. We had the obligatory handouts every now and again, but the real lessons came from her words. And I was very fortunate. I mean, a fantastic Kabbalist called Israel Regardie. There's many books out. He's now since crossed, but she was taught directly by him, and he has a great lineage behind him. So very, very fortunate.
Okay. I mean, just going back on your journey, because I was reading your biography, I guess, and you talk about that you suffered with pneumonia on one Christmas, right, and then you had this out-of-body experiences, and then all this awareness kind of opened to you, and that's when you seeked out this Kabbalist that's kind of led you on your journey. Did you have any experiences prior to that out-of-body?
As a little boy, I did. Yeah, I mean, I was kind of a sixth sense wee boy, really, and living in Scotland, and I had I used to communicate with my grandfather in the house, and he had passed when I was doing that, so it wasn't like I was like speaking to him in the next room. Well, it felt like that to me. And also there was the occasional thing at home, and subsequently, even when I was in the Royal Navy, there would be the odd thing that I would see or be aware of when I was visiting foreign ports and walking around old buildings, and I just kind of dismissed it, really. But beforehand, I think really for me the main stuff was as a little boy. I was fully aware of it, and a lot has come to light since I've done this for a living. It's that thing where you start to do it and your family says, oh yeah, I remember when you used to, and they tell you all sorts of stories.
Indeed. Okay. So I mean, one of the things I wanted to talk to you about really was that you've got a past life workshop coming up. Now you've very kindly offered an offer really to the listeners and the readers of our website. I know that you've got a 6-part psychic course. And also you've got your own membership to Wellbeing Club, and you've very kindly offered a huge discount on that to our listeners. So we've got details of that underneath the show. So if people are interested in that, then please check it out. We've got a banner on the homepage. So I mean, what's that course entail, David?
Well, first of all, thank you for putting on your website.
You're welcome.
It really is. It's an opportunity to take it in stages. There's a spoken meditation for each section to help you, and I've purposely done it without music because it's just one of those things, and I don't know about you, I sometimes love music when I meditate. Sometimes it gets right on my nerves, so I've done it so that people can put their own music on it, and or not, because a lot of people don't want to do that. But the course is really designed to give people a first footing into various disciplines. So understanding energy, about spirit guides, angelic forces, there'll be divination, so on, tarot, and some past life work, and showing them safe practice, really, about how to go about that. And if they take it nice and easy and gently and allow things to develop. I mean, one of the first things I say to people in part 1 is switch your TV off, because you hear the news, you're getting other people's stuff, you watch documentaries, get other people's stuff. Take a couple of weeks just to travel inwards and find out your own stuff. It's very simple stuff. There's nothing complicated. There's nothing where you have to go and gather things in and, under a full moon at 3 o'clock do any old nonsense. It's a journey into yourself, really.
Well, thank you very much for doing that, and please do check that out. So really, the other main topic that I wanted to cover, and it's a really intriguing topic around past life regression. And I know that watching one of your videos, you gave this a go yourself, and you were outstanded by what happened to you. And it's almost like you couldn't quite believe it was going to happen, and almost doubted that it would. And you were thrown back to another life where you had some Greek army coming flying towards you.
Yeah, that was my first regression with there's a lovely lady called Angeris who did my very first one as part of the Kabbalah. Really, she's a Kabbalist, and I was doing that thing, where when you do past life work, you give people a visualization, if you like, to follow. And so we're doing that visualization, and I thought to myself, nothing's going to happen here, you know. It's just going to be, what am I going to say to this lovely, sweet old lady while I'm still here, you know? And the second she said, "What are you wearing on your feet?" There I was with a pair of sandals on my feet, and I knew that that's what I was wearing, so I said it straight away. And then this whole story unfolded where I was with the Greek army, and I'd been a very naughty boy and didn't go home to my wife. I went home to my mistress instead.
Oops.
Yeah, exactly. Then went home to my wife, and then went back to the mistress. And the story kind of unfolded that, I then drank some wine at the mistress's house and was poisoned, which was meant for her, not for me.
Right.
And really, for me, what the key points really were that the depth of the emotion. You know, we're all emotional, but it takes quite a bit to get me going, you know. But immediately, just such powerful emotions when I saw the children, when I saw my wife, when I saw my lover, all those sorts of really intense emotions. Then it was the recognition of people from that life. My lover was actually had been a partner of mine who had just split up from just a few weeks before. Right. And then there was other people in that life that came into my life later on, came in my life within about a year's time, that I recognized immediately, who owed me, if you like, some kind of karmic debt because I was poisoned by mistake and it was their mistake. And so both those individuals concerned really rallied round me at a time in my life when I really needed some physical support. And that came later. And also that thing where, you know, in those days, in the dark ages, when I did this regression, there was no Google. So I had to go to the library, heaven forbid. I actually looked through books. And as I was doing that, there was this, I'm sure you know that feeling when you get that gut turnover when you know that you've struck something that's important to your soul, really. And as I was reading these books in the library, there was names and there was dates and there was even drawing of a brooch that I had seen, a sort of very similar symbol that was related to the story I'd been told. So my stomach kind of turned and went, the reality of it struck me. And I think for me, coming away from that very first regression, and ever since, you can't tell me that I haven't lived before because it was such a powerful experience. And that's what I say to people all the time. You know, that's my experience, and I don't care who says you make it up. It's because you watched, something on telly the day before, which I didn't, I have to say. It's because of this, because of that, because of the other. I don't really care what they say because in my heart, I know that I've lived before. End of, you know.
Well, there's some interesting stories where people have brought back information that they can then later on verify. You know, you might have a child that remembers living in a town in Ireland or something, and they go back there and find information. And also with birthmarks as well, they seem to signify where they might have been killed.
Yeah, I've got two of those.
Oh, have you?
Yeah, I do indeed. I've got one from the Greek life, and I've got one from a life here in England, which is on my back, funnily enough, which is where I was stabbed, and one where I was hit just on my leg as well.
Crikey. So do you think that we literally go through this kind of whole wheel of just keep coming back? I mean, or is it optional? How do you feel it is?
I don't think it's an option for a long time. Right. I think we have to come back, but it's a debate, and we participate in that. It's not for me. Certainly, this is what happens when you do past life work. People often land in between lives, and they give you information of what it's like in the astral worlds, really. And no one ever says that they were told, you don't have to go back, but they were kind of said it's probably best if you do go back. Yeah. Do you know what I mean? Because if your soul's going to advance, the way I sort of teach people when I'm teaching past life is this. I say, if you go into your office tomorrow and your boss says to you, okay, I'm going to give you a week of hell, a really difficult week, a week when you want to give up sometimes, a week when you'd be elated, and a week when it'd be full of joy, but then the next minute it's full of disaster. But at the end of that week, I'm going to advance you. You can be managing director. You don't have to work again. You can have all the money you like, a private jet and a penthouse flat, any city you want. Then you're going to say, oh, yeah, I'll have a go at that, aren't you? You'll take the week. And that's kind of what it's like when you're up there. They say to the soul, okay, you did a great job last time. You need to learn this, need to learn that. It's only 80 years.
Yeah.
And from that perspective, you go, well, it's only 80 years. That's not a problem, is it? I'll have a go at that. You get down here and you think, 80 years.
That's a long time.
So it's kind of the same thing. And the they that are discussing this with you are your peers. There are souls that know you, as well as, of course, higher guides and masters. These are